Hello, and welcome to our presentation on Shell's experience with oil in Nigeria. We've talked in class about oil companies in the US and other large spots around the world, but Nigeria is one of the few places rarely talked about. In this presentation, we will look at the history of oil in Nigeria, Shell's exploration of oil in the Ogoni lands, some of the environmental effects that were caused by Shell's exploration, how the Nigerian government responded to the Ogoni people, and the ethics of a good company. Alright, so the history of oil in Nigeria. The Nigerian government wanted to get money from oil, but they didn't have any foreign companies really looking to help them. So their solution for this problem was to make their land very cheap. So eventually some British companies came in and started looking for oil. They were to no avail. And then Shell came in, bought up a whole bunch of land, and then were able to find oil. The way they did it, though, was kind of questionable, and we're going to look into that next. Shell's oil exploration. When Shell started to look for oil in Nigeria, they didn't care much for the people living there. One example of this was the Ogoni people. An example of their apathy for the Ogoni people would be the abundant use of flaring, which is when very harmful gas is burned off in a very cheap way. Now, this sounds like no big deal, but it caused some acid rain and really caused some environmental problems. They also weren't required by the Nigerian government to clean up after their oil spills. So when they did spill oil, yes, they would clean it up, but they did take some time to clean it up, which was the head of major controversy with the Ogoni people and the Nigerian government. As I said earlier, the abundant use of flaring caused acid rain, making rainwater damage to crops, and the rainwater was then undrinkable. The oil spills would leak into the rivers, which would make the Ogoni people lose even more drinking water. Basically, the Ogoni people had lost everything due to the lack of drinking water caused by Shell's oil exploration. Nigeria and the Ogoni people. Now, how exactly did the Nigerian government react to all the problems caused by Shell? Well, the Ogoni people were tired of this, so they created the Movement for Survival of the Ogoni People, the MOSOP. The movement's goals of saving the Ogoni people and their environment was in conflict with the Nigerian government's goal to make a profit. When the Ogoni people started a peaceful protest, the government decided to stop it by sending mobile police, which killed 100 of them, destroying their homes. The government also made false claims on the leader of the MOSOP, Ken Karawiwa, and some of his associates to stop them. The Nigerian government basically put the profits of the oil business in front of the Ogoni people, which really enraged the Ogoni people, but there was nothing they could do. Now let's look at what an ethical company would have done. What Shell did was clearly wrong. An ethical company would have cared about the environment of its people and would have resorted to different techniques than flaring. They would have also cleaned up oil spills right as they occurred, rather than slowly letting them drift into the rivers and streams and poison the water, basically. An ethical company also would have listened to the people that it's getting its oil from, rather than just put it off to the side and say, no, it's not really a big deal, and just focusing on the money. Overall, oil in Nigeria was slow to come by, but to discover oil, they created cheap land, which Shell bought out. When Shell explored for oil, they didn't care much for the people living on the land. They had extreme flaring and oil spills, which caused some detrimental environmental effects. such as acid rain, and the oil spills also leaked into the rivers, causing a lack of drinking water, forcing the Ogoni people out of their land. In response, the Ogoni people protested, and the Nigerian government shut down those protests and even killed some of the Ogoni people. An ethical company wouldn't have caused oil spills, and they would have cleaned it up a lot quicker. An ethical company would have also listened to the people of the land that they were working on. Overall, Shell did not do a good job and was not an ethical company. And oil in Nigeria has become a giant controversy.